Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. Boom. Okay.
Takes us nicely on, really,
Okay.
from what I was just saying. Discovering adventure on my own terms, and as an expression of real freedom.
Yeah. So it's a photo. It's shot on a grey, overcast day.
In Scotland.
It's in Scotland.
This is in Scotland.
Okay. This is you on the left in the black.
It's a photo of me and my father with our bicycles at John O'Groats, which is not actually the most northern, but it's the northern end of the UK.
Right.
So it's famous in the UK for people to do cycling or running or walking or unicycling, you name it, as a charity raising thing often, to cycle from Land's End to John O'Groats. You're essentially going from one end of the British Isles or the island of Great Britain to the other.
How many kilometers is that?
I don't know. I've never done it.
Well, it says, okay, so the sign says Cairo, 3,000 meters. What?
Miles.
Okay.
Land's End is 8-7 something miles perhaps.
Okay.
Yeah, so the original sign, this is photoshopped.
Oh, okay.
The original sign doesn't have Cairo or Cape Town on it, but I've added it in.
Okay. So there's one that says New York, Cape Town, Cairo, Land's End, and then says you, and that's your dad.
And my father. So
he's in jeans. I guess it was windy.
Some corduroy trousers. That's just his style.
Trousers.
He's a bit naff, but
No.
yeah, with his high-vis yellow jacket.
Well, the apple didn't fall far from the tree, man. Like, okay.
So the Cairo and Cape Town are photoshopped in because this was culminating the end of a journey from those places.
Right.
So I felt with this podcast, I've got to mention the Africa trip I did because it's
crazy.
It's insane. There's plenty to talk about, and it's a noteworthy thing I've done in my life and shaped a lot of things. So going back to what I was mentioning 5 minutes ago with discovering adventure on my own terms, leading me to start an adventure tour company, this trip was an integral part of that. Mm-hmm. So I cycled, not every kilometer, but I cycled about 2/3 of it. Mm-hmm. But I went with my bike from Cape Town to Cairo overland across Africa.
Mm. Say that again, just so that it
I went with my...
Say it slowly.
I cycled basically from Cape Town to Cairo across Africa.
Right.
And then when I got to Cairo, I wasn't doing the trip with a very strict plan in mind of I'm going to cycle every bit of it, or it was initially, let's just get to Nairobi, see if I'm alive. I was. So then I got to Cairo and I felt I'd bitten off an appropriate amount to chew. When I got to Cairo, I thought I've crossed Africa, kind of out of money. So rather than having to fundraise or borrow for the sake of cycling from Cairo onwards to Scotland to do this Cape to Cape, I flew to Edinburgh, and as a little bit of a cherry on top of the cake kind of thing, I cycled from Edinburgh up to John O'Groats. It was about 6 days. It was 6 leisurely days of cycling because the last 3, my father joined me and we rode up. So it was it was nice to finish to do the last bit of the last leg with him to culminate this awesome adventure.
Was it this? Did you leave with one bike and end with one bike, or did you get different bikes?
It was one bike.
Wow.
The plan was originally to do an overland trip by 4-wheel drive.
Right.
So I'd been studying in Australia my architecture degree for 5 years, and then the last 6 months before I left Australia, I'd graduated and planned with a friend to do Trans-Africa in like a Land Cruiser or Land Rover Defender, something like this. And just as I'm within weeks of me going to Africa to get my flight, he says, I want to put the event back by a year.
Yeah, so he hit the brakes and you're like, wait.
Well, he's working as a geologist in Australia and said, I want to, secure more money and whatnot. But I was already committed. I basically left Australia, sold all my stuff. Like I was...
Right.
I was going to Scotland. for a fortnight over Christmas to see my family before flying down to Cape Town. So I just said, fuck you, basically.
So you went to South Africa.
So...
Okay, now had you been?
No, I'd never been to Africa before.
Oh, amazing.
So pretty ad hoc, got to Scotland over that Christmas. Had to figure out very quickly, what do I want to do? If I'm not going to wait a year, do I go down to Africa, just mooch about, maybe wait a year down there, doing something else? Do I just backpack around, bumble about? Do I still try to go trans-Africa? If so, I don't have the money to do it in a car. I had enough to pitch in my share, but I was relying on him to buy the thing,
right.
cover certain overheads. So I'd done a cycling trip a few years before across Vietnam and China, and it was one of the best ways to really travel and get to know a place. So I thought, well, yeah, that could work. Let's do it. Wow. So I went to the garage. So the bike that's in the photo, the one bike that made it across, was a pretty shitty old hardtail mountain bike that I'd had for 4 years already. I got it when I was a teenager. It was a relatively cheap bike from a shop called Halfords in the UK, which is predominantly known for buying car parts.
Okay.
But they do sell a few bicycles. It's not a bike shop.
That's great.
So I stuck it in a box, put the box on a skateboard, and got to Edinburgh with it, got on a flight and flew the thing to Africa, and then tried to I had about 4 weeks in South Africa, not cycling, just traveling around, experiencing it, seeing some friends, and getting what advice I could and preparing there. So I got all my vaccinations done there. I got saddlebags and some bits of kit there. I got set up. But pretty much everyone just said, you're mad, don't do it.
I'm going to cycle along the coast, right?
There'll all be South Africans. Oh, the idea, well, man, you can do it for a bit, but once you get to this country, they'll kill you, and blah, blah, blah.
But again, so you went along, you snaked along the coast, or did you go through the interior?
Once I started, I initially went up the west side until I got to Namibia, then go inland through Botswana, Zambia, Malawi, and then I hit the east. I didn't hit the Indian Ocean coast until Dar es Salaam in Tanzania.
Okay.
But then you sort of bound to some extent on a bicycle to keep east, go through Kenya, Sudan, Egypt, because a lot along the people ask, how do you pick the route? You either kind of go west or east.
Yeah.
Otherwise, a lot of your options are like, I'm not going to go cycling through Chad. I'm sure you could. Somalia, Mozambique, there was a civil war at the time. The Congo is mental.
Yeah.
So yeah, the route chooses itself.
Yeah.
People will go straight north through Zimbabwe first. So I found in Zambia, I'd meet a few people who'd gone up. And then in East Africa, I didn't go to Rwanda or Uganda, which would have been cool. But
yeah,
I don't know. I didn't have a plan to cycle every K, so I hitchhiked a fair bit. And
one of the things that is, okay, so because you've experienced it, and I think by bike, it's like walking. By car, it happens by very quickly. Just like in a plane, it happens instantaneously. But when you're cycling, it's all about speed, right? So it's like if you went by wheelchair, it's kind of like, or skateboard is like the slowest sort of vehicle to kind of get across a distance. Walking, pretty good, but then like cycling for me is so meditative. Like you're in your head and you're just pushing the kilometers. And it's a really great way of intimately feeling the landscape.
Yeah, I think there's a clear distinction to that end between like a car and any other vehicle, even a motorbike to some extent, because with the car you're in a bubble and you're insulated. The motorbike was quite a lot of faff. I met a lot of people motorbiking across Africa, and I don't know, it was quite quite dodgy. There was just a lot of faff crossing borders and things. Like I basically, other than a couple of occasions, never had to pay a bribe at a checkpoint on a bicycle. The guys would just wave you through.
Right.
If you're on a motor vehicle, they would want backsheesh.
They probably see some weirdo biking by, and they're like, "This guy has to be local because where the fuck is he coming from?"
Yeah, a lot of Africans will also be just hoofing about on bikes, especially in Zambia and Malawi. Loads of people, loads of locals would cycle there, and yeah, they have a measure of respect, I suppose, because you're doing it on a bike.
Yeah.
But then the other side, you're talking about the meditative state of mind. I think that could apply to people that
driving long distances.
You could be cycling, you could be running it, walking it.
Yeah.
I'm sure someone's bloody pogo sticked across Africa, and that would apply to all of them. The distinction with cycling, apart from those other exposed modes, would be you can cover decent distance each day. Like your distance is tangible.
Yeah.
Like if you cycle 100 kilometers, hypothetically, in some parts of the world, you could start your day in a semi-desert, go over a mountain range, and be somewhere verdant by the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So your distance is tangible. I had a South African-made Africa Road Atlas A4, and that was my map to get me across. I didn't have lots of little fold-out maps or different things along the way. I would exchange Lonely Planet books with people, so those had some maps. And yeah, even then, if you're doing about 100 kilometers a day, your progress on the map is just a little... Yeah, that was for me a good balance. There's some people that will dig the more arduous progress of doing it by foot. Going much less distance per day.
Different stroke. I mean, personally, I gravitate to cycling. I love to cycle. For me, it's so many good things. And then when you said that you went by bicycle from South Africa to Cairo, and you went from the south to the north in Egypt. Like, okay, so which country was physically the most demanding?
Sudan,
okay. Why?
Sudan was the most demanding in every way.
Okay.
There's no tourism there.
Okay.
It's bloody hot, regardless of when you go, really. The accommodation's pretty scant.
Yeah.
The distances between anything are huge.
Oh.
Just inhospitable. A lot of admin. You can't just pop in. You gotta sort out your visas and whatnot well in advance. And once you're there, it's very hard to get cash. So yeah, just a lot of things that don't feed in very well for a cycling trip. And you're coming across from a rural part of Ethiopia, so you're not really entering Sudan full of beans.
On a good...
And fully, I was pretty knackered just crossing the border already. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty challenging. And then I got sick when I was there, so yeah, that...
How many times did you get sick?
Only once, like, quite properly.
Like, hospitalized sick?
I went to the hospital and they gave me, like, some sort of IV type injection thing, because I thought I had malaria. So I went to get a blood test.
Right.
But the place was mayhem. I was very much better off not in that hospital.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, that's knocked the stuffing out of me. I got a tummy bug a couple of times, but it was like you're sick for 1 or 2 days and then you're back.
Bad ass mofo, man. Well done. Should we go on to the next photo?
Sure.
Okay.
So the Africa, you could fill an hour. It's
easily. And so the podcast kind of has to roll. And okay, bye guys. I mean, like, it's so funny too.
We might brush back on it later.
Sure, but like for me, just now, just from your story and from just thinking about it, like biking through Ethiopia into Sudan, where it's like crazy, insane hot, and then I'm seeing on the photograph, you guys are wearing polyester. It's gray. It looks kind of cold.
That last bit in Scotland it was like a vacation compared to Africa. Completely chalk and cheese.
Yeah. Okay, let's go.
Scotland was the only country I didn't hitchhike.
Okay.
Put it that way.
Okay, next photo. So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting.